So, in today's session, we're going to be emphasizing some balancing poses, and that's my theme for the month, and really just more about how we approach them and how much we can welcome doing balancing on one leg and balancing in different positions, and also a bit of movement to start with. I've been thinking with the weather pattern that we've had in the last week or month, however long it's been, lots of rain, that it's good to get moving and kind of relieve some of the dampness that we experience, not just in our houses, but in our bodies. And let's begin standing up. Here we go. Okay. Muted. All right. So stand with your feet just a little bit apart and maybe pass one foot to the other back and forth. Just a little bit of walking in place, a little sashaying from side to side. And then from there, let's do some arm swings. Just tapping the legs lightly. And then crook your elbows a little bit and tap the sides of your waist. Shoulders nice and relaxed. Feels nice to rotate your neck and your head. And then tap shoulders. And maybe the side of your neck. Just lightly. And then retracing that pattern and tapping shoulders, side waist, and sides of your thighs. Good. Slow it down, come to a halt. And then we'll just do some hip swivels. Maybe circumscribing about the size of a dinner plate. And shoulders relaxed. And the other way. And then allowing for a figure eight. Sometimes I feel like I can only guess at that shape, approximate figure eight. That's good. And then when you come to a standstill now, bring your right hand onto your right shoulder, left shoulder, right hand, left shoulder. Good. And then turn your head and look that direction. You could just look out of the corner of your eyes and make this an eye exercise. And then open that arm out to the side and just follow along with your line of vision all the way back. And then fold that arm in again, looking left over your shoulder, opening out to the right now. And finding a pattern of breathing that's nice and even. Maybe opening on the inhalation, closing on the exhalation. And then finishing and beginning on the other side and left hand, right shoulder. Drop your chin, look down, and then open out. As you go along, deepening the breath, possibly. And just one more of those. Shoulder open position, and then resting your arms down by your side. Interlock your hands. Turn your hands inside out. And just take a moment. My fingers are a little bit stiff with this damp weather, and stretching the finger joints. And then inhale and arms up. And exhale, tip to the right side. Your head towards your right arm. Back to center. Over to the left. Back into center. Just lower your hands to chest height. Change the way you interlocked your hands. Give another few moments to that maximum finger stretch. Up you go. To the right. To the left. Back up to center. And then release your arms down. Good. I discovered a movement that I think is kind of fun. So grab your yoga block. Daniel? Okay, and what is this for? It's for your arm and shoulder rotation. So here's my block on the flat of my palm. And I'm going to bring it behind me, but keep it parallel to the ceiling. The little forward bend when you do that. And a little knee bend. And you're not actually holding the block. It's just lying there parallel with the ceiling. Try to stay upright as much as possible, as long as you can. And then let's see what it's like on the opposite side. So non-dominant side for me is a little less easy. How's that going? And then when you come back to the first side, there's an extra element here that you could include if you want to take a little challenge. I don't really know how to describe it. All I can do is do it. And one more to the opposite side. And by now you've really warmed up the dorsal thoracic, the back of your chest. Okay, nicely done. And then just leave your block to the side. Some shoulder rolls. And shake a leg. All right, we're going to move to the floor now and lie on your back. But take a belt with you. So lying face up, legs bent, feet on the floor. And then take a moment and just adjust your back so that you feel well supported from your shoulders, mid-back, lower back. Bend one knee into your chest, second knee, and let your hands rest lightly onto your patellas, onto your kneecaps. Then circle your knees. So we did a little bit of this with the standing hip circles. It's up to you how big a circumference you want to circumscribe here. Go the other way. And then just to be more creative, separate your knees and then circle the knees in. So your feet and your legs apart, and then you bring them together. And then the other way. Just feel nice and loose in your hip joints. And then bring your legs all the way together and your feet together. And just that light pressure of your hands onto your knees or at the top of your shin bones. Bring your knees to your chest on an exhalation. Exhale. Inhale, push your knees away. And go back and forth between those two movements. This is really an excellent movement to include in every one of your personal practices, your yoga practices. And especially if when you bring your knees close to you, you move your sitting bones towards the floor. So I just remembered to do that. And it makes the crease at the top of my thighs and in my hips a little deeper, a little more flexion, and also keeps a little bit of my lumbar arch. And the breathing is really what's important here. Okay, we've done well there. And then bring your feet onto the floor. And let's prepare with a floor twist for warming the back up a little bit more. Separate your feet and drop your knees to the right side. Look to the left. Just a little rotation through your neck and head. And knees to the left. Look to the right. Back and forth movement, but at your own pace and giving time to enjoy the stretch. That outer leg stretch, the inner thigh stretch alternating. All right, now take pause here, knees up again. Your feet are still wide. And as you drop your knees to the right side, extend your left arm overhead along the floor. Reverse, fold the left arm in, extend the right arm overhead as you take your knees to the left side. And then one more time each side, but with just a slight difference. As you extend your arm overhead, left arm overhead, drop your knees to the right, hold it there, and just lean onto your right shoulder. You could even roll onto your right shoulder. And then try that on the other side. So you're only going as far as that feels like a safe and good movement for your body. Onto the left shoulder. And then back to center. And if you did indeed like that, then do it one more time each side. I'm going to look to the right as I roll onto my right shoulder. Extending my left waist. And in reverse. Looking to the left, big stretch arm overhead, back to center, and then pausing there, consolidating really. So now step your feet in a little bit closer, have your arms just a little distance from the side of your body. and relax. Feel the points of contact with your back, your shoulder blades, and the base of your spine, the sacrum. And then take up your block and place the block in the mid-range width between your thighs, just above your knees, and step your feet in a little bit. This is our preparation for the little bridge pose. So, turn your palms over and press your palms and your arms into the floor. Anchor your shoulders. Start to lift your buttocks away from the floor. And do that as much as you can from the backs of your thighs as you are from your glutes. Tuck under and lower back down. And pause again, and then bring the flat of your palms onto the outside of your hips. So your palms flat against the outer hips, and then this time lift up into your bridge, but lift up with the help of your hands, lifting the outer hips up. You might feel like you're closing the frontal hips towards each other. And then lower down in the same fashion. And do that one more time. You're not really helping very much with your hands. You're just suggesting a direction that you can do with the outer hip movement. And then lower back down. And rest there. Drop your arms to the side. Turn your palms over. And then let's do 2 more of the small bridges with that in mind, lifting up from the outer hips. The pubic bone drops a little bit and the tailbone releases. And then rolling your spine like a wheel from the top down to the tailbone and back to the floor. Once again. This time as you lift up into your small bridge, turn your palms outwards if you haven't done that, but turn your shoulders out as well. Outer hips, hamstrings, releasing the tail, and then rolling down. So much to think about, so much of your anatomy to get in touch with. And then resting there. Good. Take the block away. We're going to swap over the block for your belt. And I've come to place the belt on my foot in a particular way where I wrap around from the front to the back, cross the belt over, and finish up with 2 dangly bits of the belt, and I can hold on to each side. So either that worked for you or it didn't. But I just find this is a really nice way to keep the both sides of my body working evenly. So we brought that right leg up to the vertical, the left foot's onto the floor, and let's go through some nice movements that will help you in balancing and walking and standing for long periods of time. So we're going to use the leg muscles, but connect them with the foot. And start with pointing your toes up, pointing your toes down. So we're working through the toe joints here. The toes are moving as much as the whole of the foot. And give the ankle a really good stretch when you're in plantar flexion, when the toes are up. A continuous stretch with the front of the shin bone. When the toes are down, then a continuous stretch from the back of your knee to your heel. Okay, and then we'll bring that movement to a standstill. And then do your ankle rolls. You're going to turn your right foot to the right, and then turn the sole of your right foot to the left. And we're just doing that. You could pull on the belt, and that enhances that rolling of your foot and your ankle. These are really nice movements. If you've ever had an ankle sprain, as I've had in my left leg, and you want to create some mobility there or retain what mobility you have. And then pause. The next time as you turn the sole of the right foot to the right, resist turning it back to the left. Yeah. And then as you turn your foot to the left, resist turning your foot to the right. And do that a few times, alternating sides. And then notice how that effect of the resistance ripples up your legs. And I feel that in my inner thighs and my outer thighs, in the adductors and the outer hips even. Good. And then coming to a standstill again. Consolidate. And let's do a movement where alternately a little, very little knee flexion and then straightening the legs. A slight bend and then straightening. So now you're testing the suppleness of the hamstrings in the straight leg movement, and especially at the back of your knee. All right, let's add resistance, and keeping the leg straight, push up against the resistance of the belt towards the ceiling. Feel the thigh muscles switch up just at the top of the right thigh. Release, just relax a little bit, and then push strongly up towards the ceiling. Imagine we've got one of those 3 kilos sandbags and you're pushing up against it, and then releasing. And third time, strong extension and strong thigh muscles. Good. And then just take a moment and relax your fingers and your hands a little bit. Fingers can stay soft. All right, grab up the belt into your right hand. And the left leg still bent with your left foot on the floor near to your left buttock. Allow your right leg to go to the right and your left knee to drop to the left. I'm on the outside edge of my left foot now. Good. So we get a groin stretch here, an inner thigh stretch here. But don't go to ground. Don't drop that leg out. So keep the leg a little lifted, and the lift comes from the outside of your thigh, from glute medius on the outside of your right hip, actually. Right? And then you could try those ankle rolls in this position. They feel a little bit different than they did when you had the leg raised. All right, and then bring that leg up to the vertical. Bring your left knee up straight. And then let's do some rotations. So I've got a hold of both ends of the belt again, and then just a small circle there. I'm not going wildly wide. I just want to feel the thigh bone back into the hip socket, which is so much where it should be. And then go the other way. Small circles. If you want to go wider, but keep the weight even on the sacrum, on the back of the pelvis. Good. And then we've done good work there. Let's pop the belt out. And extend the legs out. So both legs straight along the mat. Be on the center of your heels. So instead of the legs dropping out, the legs are straight out. And then alternately point your toes. Bring your toes back towards your knees. Go back and forth between those two movements. You can't really see what you're doing, but feel for it. Feel for the plantar flexion, stretches the front of your legs. Dorsiflexion stretches the back of your legs. Okay, and then bring that to a standstill, and then just jiggle. jiggle your feet, jiggle your legs, without allowing any stiffness in your body, the hips, maybe that movement ripples up your spine, your neck, and your shoulders. Good. And with that little break, now we're coming back to do the left leg. Right foot on the floor near to your right buttock. Bend your left leg in, and then pop the belt on. A little bit of an exercise just to put a belt on your leg, isn't it? All right, and then you've caught both ends of the belt there. And we're looking at the left foot. Hello, left foot. And alternately stretching into plantar flexion, toes pointed, toes down. And rolling back and forth, incorporating the toe bones as much as possible. All the 26 bones of your feet, your ankle bones, and allowing for the sensation to come up through the leg, thigh muscles, and hip. Good. And then rolling the ankle, turning in, turning out, and just like a puppeteer pulling on each side of the belt. Good. Now really, this is where the strengthening movement comes from for your legs. Resistance, turn your left foot to the right, and then resist turning it back to the left. I can feel strongly through the outer hip muscles. And then opposite, a little tug on the belt as you try to turn the belt from left to right. And then do that a few more times with your own mindfulness, mindful attention to what that feels like with your hips and your legs. All right, and then let's come to the middle ground again, and the sole of the foot straight up towards the ceiling. And then a little knee bend, just a little is plenty, and then pushing up towards the ceiling. So nicely warming up your knees into flexion and extension. Sort of a last bastion of a leg stretch like this that we've done so often in yoga is that vertical stretch at the back of your knees. That's when you know that you've got your quadricep working, the front thigh. All right, now let's work with resistance. So after a little tiny bend of your knee, pushing up towards the ceiling against that nice sandbag weight on the sole of your foot, don't drop it. And then knee bend, pushing up, little flexion, and then a strong extension. You're not snap locking your knee, you're just using your front thigh muscle to extend. All right, and then let's go left. Take up the belt into your left hand. Drop the leg out to the left at the same time as you bend your right knee out to the right. And then testing the water, what does that feel like to open up the groin, the left leg? Do you remember what it felt like on the right side? As you extend the left leg left, in the sensation of the outer thigh, you can feel the muscles on that in that area and the outer hip, just holding the leg up a little away from the floor. Good. And then we could do the ankle rolls here. Turning your foot in, turning your foot out. And then bringing the legs straight up, the right knee straight up. And then take up the belt, both ends of the belt, one hand each side, and then circle. So we're circling into the hip socket. And these are smallish circles. And especially if you get any clicking through the hip, make sure that the leg muscles are still toned. And you might narrow the circle that you're making to avoid the clicking. Okay, very good work. And then releasing that foot to the floor. And I think we'll do one more bridge with your heels as close to your buttocks as you can. And you can get them even closer in if you lift your heels and come onto the backs of the toes. This is going to be a good toe stretch anyway. So heels are up, arms down by your side. And now we're going to tilt the pelvis under and start your lift off and rolling up the wheel of the spine towards the upper back. Let's add an overhead arm stretch. And feel that as a cross stretch with the knees moving away from you and the fingers moving away from the torso. And then lower down. Feel the separation of your vertebrae as you roll down the spinal column. But you're going to keep your heels up. When your hams come down, your buttocks come down. Just palpate at the back of your thighs. What does that mean? Bring your fingertips onto the muscles at the back of your thighs. Give them a little jiggle. The hamstrings are loose at this point. Then start your elevation of your hips and feel the hamstrings contributing to the lift off as they tone and lift from the back thigh to the front thigh. Add the overhead arm stretch. Roll in a little bit to the inside of your feet, to the base of your big toe. You could still be lifting from the outer hips. That's a really good movement. And then as you lower your arms, lower your hips. And then give yourself a well-earned hug. Bring your knees to your chest. You could link your hands at the front of your knees. Rock a little bit on the back waist. And finally, we're going to come up to standing. Roll over to the right, and up you come. Take up your block. And step your feet apart. Hip width distance is good. Square your feet. And then take your block on the high end out in front of you. And when you reach out, then that'll be the appropriate distance. Coming back up to standing. And let's work with chair pose. So at the same time as you bend your knees, you're going to bring your arms up and sit your buttocks back a little. You can see out of the corner of your eyes, the arms aren't back behind the head, they're just alongside your ears. Extend the arms out and then allow to sit back a little bit more. Good. And then lower down and release. From chair pose, we're going to reach out onto that block. So take a little stronger knee bend this time. And from chair pose, reach your hands out onto the block. We just want to deepen the movement at the hip crease. So allow your knees to move back slightly. Allow your buttock bones to move back slightly. And just lift your tail. Instead of looking down or back towards your feet, Lift your chest a little bit and look out towards the block. Then strong feet, and you're going to come up with the help of your arms and all the way up to the vertical, and exhale, arms down by your side. Good. Let's do that one more time. Inhale to chair. Pause there. Imagine that you're holding your block on the wide end between your hands, and strengthen your arm muscles. And then we're going to move into a deeper bend and reaching out and placing your hands, the heel of your hands onto the blocks, and then sitting back neatly into your heel bones. And feel for it. The buttocks are back. Tilt your tail up slightly. And lengthen the back of your neck. Keep your weight on your heels, just a little forward of your heel bones, and come up with the help of your arms. Inhale. And exhale, arms down. Good. You've done some nice preparation for some salutes. And we're going to continue now facing the short end of your mat. And stand with your 2 feet a little closer in Tadasana. You've left your block to the side. All right. And have enough room so you can do a big sweep of your arms out to the side. But we'll start in prayer pose. So hands together in front of your chest. This is a little reminder to lift and open your chest or your heart center if you like to think like that. Inhale and sweep the arms out sideways and overhead. Exhale, dive forward. Bring your hands up onto your shins just below your knees, and then lengthen your chest forward, look out. Inhale. Exhale, step back your right foot and come onto your right knee. We're going to come into your lunge position with your hands alongside your left foot. You're onto your right knee. And then do this with me. Bend your knee over the middle of your foot, so you're leaning into your lunge. And now do exactly the opposite and bring your knee back over your heel bone. And you're leaning back into your right leg a little bit. Your chest is still open. Take this to dog pose and step left foot back. And then take a little time to stretch your shoulders. We're not going to stay here. We're going to bring right foot forward now. Left knee to the floor. Try those 2 directions. So knee comes forward, and that sort of takes the energy out of your hips. Bring your knee back, knee over your heel, and then that'll switch on your buttock and your medialis muscles. And then from here, we're going to take a big step forward. Uttanasana, head down, bum up. And then your arms will help you come up. Bend your knees a little bit. Inhale. And all the way up. And exhale to prayer. Good. Take pause. Notice if your buttocks are clenched. Relax there. And soften a little bit behind your knees. Continuing. Inhale. Exhale, diving forward. Inhale, head up, stretch it out. Exhale, take your right foot back, but keep your right leg straight. Bring your hands down, right foot back. And now that's a really good adjustment for waking up your leg and hip muscles. Lean back into the back leg. Draw the left knee back slightly. Keep your chest up. Moving to dog pose and left foot back. Shoulder stretch. Right foot forward. Left leg stays straight. And now feel for it and lean back into that left leg. Relax your shoulders, shoulders and shoulder blades down. Big step forward, left foot. Forward fold position. Inhale, look up. Exhale, hands to chest, look inward. All right, let's go. Those are working really well. We'll do 2 more, one each side. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, head up. Exhale, step back. In lunging with the right leg back. Exhale, left foot back. Downward facing dog pose. Right foot forward. Moving with a little bit more pace. Left leg stays straight. Left leg forward. Inhale up. Exhale, prayer pose. Take a breath or 2 there. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, left leg. Right leg back, downward facing dog pose. Coming out of that sequence and left leg. Right leg. Inhale, sweep of the arms. Exhale, back to prayer. Good. So having nicely warmed up, let's come back into dog pose and start the approach from kneeling. So the approach through cat pose gives you a little bit more thrust in lifting up. So tuck your navel up, lift your shoulder blades up, round your back, curl your toes under, and then push off and come into downward facing dog pose. Step each foot behind its respective hand. So just check that out. Right foot, right hand, foot, left hand. And then balance your weight on your 2 hands and your left foot. Bend your right knee towards your chest. And then extend that right leg, lifting off behind you. Can you duck your chin and see your right foot toes? Point your toes down towards the floor. And then lift your leg a little bit higher. Fold that leg back in. And ready to reverse. And little flexion through your left knee as you lift the left foot off the floor. Straighten the left leg behind you. Bring it down a little bit. Look at your left foot toes. They're pointing towards the floor. And then if you like, raise the leg a little bit higher. And then left foot to the floor. And we're going to take a rest now through child's pose. And knees down. And elbows down. And folding down. Let your shoulders fall out. And then let's come up to standing. And grab a chair. So placing the chair at the short end of the mat with the legs of the chair up on the mat. So come close to the chair I don't know, about a leg length away from the chair. Bend forward and take hold of the sides of the chair. Then step back. And you've come to a modified dog pose stretch with your legs a little bit on a slant. Then step your feet all the way together. Big toes touching, maybe the heels slightly apart. Take the opportunity. It's a really nice way to give an additional shoulder stretch. Roll your arms out, roll your shoulders out. Feel your shoulder blades holding on to the outer ribs. And then we're going to lift the right leg. So flex the knee a little bit. Lift the right leg behind you. And have a look at your right foot toes again. And if you like, raise the leg a little bit higher. You're restraining that tendency to turn the leg out. The front of the thigh and the front of the knee pointing directly down. Good work. And then rest that leg. Consolidate by giving yourself a nice shoulder stretch again. Bend your left knee a little bit. Transfer your weight onto your right foot. Slowly raise the left leg behind you. Look at your toes pointing down. And then lower the left leg alongside the right. Good. And then take a walk in and inhale and come up. Good. We're going to do that all over again. And see whether we can invoke the hamstrings to help the leg lift. So that's where your attention will be. So once more, modified dog pose, stepping the feet back and feet together. Raising the right leg. So it's really good to know what your intention is. If you've leant a little bit to the left side, use those outer thigh muscles to pull the leg back directly underneath the hip. And then looking back at your right foot, feel like you're lifting that thigh from the back of the leg, the back of the thigh, the hamstrings, from the back of the knee to the buttock. And then we're swapping over. Just take a little stretch in between. And left knee bends slightly, left leg comes up. Like you're pulling on that guy wire on the string from the back of the knee to the buttock. And then if there's a lean out to the right side, pull that right hip in. Feel your weight more on the inside of your right foot. And then release that leg. And 2 feet on the floor. And take a walk in. And all the way in. Right? We're going to have a go at the warrior poses, warrior 2, warrior 1, and warrior 3. So take your chair off your mat. Step right foot forward and left foot back. There's a little distance between your thighs and your left foot, a little bit out to the left side. Turn that left foot in. And then guide your hips straight forward. You could have the flat of your palms onto the outer hips and do a little hip squeeze. When I do that and I'm containing my hips like a girdle of muscles, it switches on my core muscles too. Always a good thing. And then bend your right leg. Just keep your hands onto your hips. When you've bent that leg, let the knee come forward like you did on your lunge towards your toes. And then we want to set up to do the opposite and move your knee back into the hip socket and turn the left hip forward. Lean a little bit into your back leg and feel the hamstrings switch on again and the glutes, and bring your arms up. Good. So we've added the arm movement, and feel that extension through your arms, as though you're holding a block between your hands. Your arms are very active here. Tilt your chin up, look up at your thumbs, feel that back leg. And then releasing, hands down as you straighten the front leg. Step left foot to right and right foot back. Good. And then set up on this side with your hands onto the outer hips. Bend your left leg. Squeeze the muscles in towards the center. And then bring that left knee back a little bit. So you're leaning back into your right leg. That's very active. Arms up, reaching up. And then, if you like, tilting your chin up, but long at the back of your neck. Good, keep breathing. Right, and then as you lower your arms, straighten the front leg, step right foot to left. So traditional approach to Warrior 3 pose, the one-legged balancing, is through Warrior 1 pose, which you've just done. But we're going to do it with straight legs and just for the fun of it. So pull your chair back in. So it ends up looking a little bit like a cartwheel. Maybe I'll demonstrate one or two to start with. It's pretty wild. Okay, so that's one side, do the other side. Okay, and I think that's a good demonstration of what happens when you move quickly and maybe with a little more abandon, more fun, but also we lost all of the technique. So the technique is what makes the pose feel safe. So let's go right foot forward, left foot back. Bend your right leg. Bring your arms up again. Okay, and then just see how you go. And you could even use your chair here if you want to be free balancing on that right leg. So to create a lean forward. And then lifting the left leg off. You might fall out of the pose, but get back in. And coming back through Warrior 1 and second side. Okay, it needs work, but we kind of know how to approach it. We've got all those things in place as much as possible. Bending the left leg foot's forward, arms up. Take pause. That left knee comes back a little bit, so we're using the hip muscles again. And then moving from a forward bend over your left thigh, raise your right leg. Trying to be resilient here and coming back into the pose if it wobbles. As you can see, mine is. And finally back to Warrior 1 pose. and exiting, and right foot to left. Okay, and shake a leg, shake an arm, shake a head. Okay, good work. Let's try one more balancing pose. And for this, you're going to be side lying. Come down onto your mat and stretch out on the right side of your body, on your right hip. So I'm lying in a straight line, shoulders, hips, feet lying all in a straight line, and balancing on my right forearm. Left hand, left hip. Just take a moment there. It's not completely easy to balance just even onto the hip, but we're going to add another challenge here. So pressing into your right hand, right forearm, right elbow. Start to lift your right hip off the floor. Notice if your breathing's changed and keep the breathing regulated as much as you can. And if you got this far, you might extend up the left arm, creating a curve at your right waist, and then lightly touching down and switching sides. So I just dropped that in very quickly, but obviously apart from balancing on your arm and on your feet, you're having to strengthen those parts of your body. So switching on your core, and then right hand, right hip, lifting up, creating a curve at the left waist. And if that's going all right with you there, you got that far, extend up your right arm. Good, keep breathing. You don't want to be holding your breath to hold the pose. And then releasing, dropping that hip. And from there, taking child's pose. Moving into child's pose, take a little support for your forehead. You might fold your hands and rest your head onto your folded hands, or stack your fists one hand on top of the other, a little bit higher. Now it's easy to regulate the breath. Allow it to be quiet. Good. And then inhale and come up to a seated position. And I'm going to sit on a folded blanket, but you might want to sit on a bolster if you need more height. And take your belt along with you. Mm-hmm. All right, and simple cross-legged position. Move your heels out a little bit away from the pelvis. And then adjust the hips, reach under and draw the buttocks away from the sits bones. And as we approach this pose, stay as near to the front of the sit bones as possible. And certainly as much as you can away from your tailbone. Good. And then sitting in a relaxed upright position with your hands onto your legs, draw your elbows back a little further and closer to your waist. And then take this time just to lightly close your eyes. You've been active in your practice so far, so take this time now just to create a quiet space and a soft cadence to your breathing. Relax your shoulders. Just taking a moment to create a reflective transition now to just before we do the yoga relaxation. Place your right hand onto your left knee, your left hand behind you. When we do familiar movements like this pose, Sukhasana, easy pose, and even adopt a twist, it's easy to go into a rote way of doing this. So to break that pattern, introduce your breathing in a particular way now. So you're rotating from right to left and turn with the exhaling breath. Feel the inhalation gives you space to breathe a little bit more. The exhalation to rotate. Maybe we'll think in terms of not twisting so much, but just a gentle rotation through the spine. One more exhalation. Turn back to center. Change the way you crossed your legs. And turn to the left, right. Bring that right hand back a little further behind you. And let any effort go out of the shoulders. If you keep them soft, you actually find it easier to rotate. And adopting the breathing pattern again and staying with each breath. Soften the upper chest muscles as well, where the collarbones are. And then releasing the legs out. And just before you set up for your yoga relaxation, let's do one more thing that is in that family of poses we call balancing poses, but as a seated pose. So take away your prop and come to sit just bum on the floor. Bend your legs and have your hands onto the front of your shins. And then draw each heel in closer to you until you can wrap your arms around your legs. And I'm pretty small, so I can wrap my elbows around my legs. Hold my elbows. And then see if there's space for you. We don't know. Just try bringing the heels in a little bit closer. Good. And then lift your heels off the floor. Is there space to step your toes in a little closer still? And then bring yourself to upright. So the top front corners of your chest, they want to be shy and drop back. So bring them forward. Don't let them withdraw. And then you're ready to lift your feet off the floor. And see how that goes. So lift both feet off the floor. You're balancing on your buttock bones. And then finally, we're just going to make ourselves into a very small parcel here. Drop your chin towards your chest. Is there any more scope to bring your thighs closer to you? And then release and let go. Okay, and then take up your props that you might need for your relaxation. A pillow for your head, an eye covering, a bolster behind your knees. Those are not absolutely necessary, but just for your own greater comfort if you like them. So you're lying down with your legs bent possibly to begin with, so that you can nuzzle the back of your body into the floor a little bit more easily. The shoulder blades, the base of your spine, your sacrum. And then if you haven't done it, the legs supported onto a bolster and extended out, or you can keep your legs bent, your feet on the floor, that's fine. And then drop your arms out to the side at a comfortable distance. Mostly palms, it works to have palms upwards, but that's up to you. Curl your fingers in very gently to your palms. Feel the brush of your fingertips, your thumb tips, onto the skin of your palms. And after having done that and feeling that velvety feeling, relax your hands and let them be as soft and innocent as baby's hands. And all effort going out of your elbows and the arm muscles. And beginning to let go of the work that you did through your legs and your hips. Feel all those toe bones. All those bones of your feet. And relax the arches of your feet, the inner arches and the outer arches. The ankles. And imagine a line that goes from the inner ankles along the inner legs, up through the groins and into the pelvis. And let go of the legs. And finally feel where your hips are supported, the back where the pelvic rim is, the front where the two frontal hips are, the bones, the pubic bone. And allow the belly to be supported and soften and loosen the belly muscles. and right up to the diaphragm. Letting go, and especially on the exhaling breaths, so the whole of your body feels lighter and freer. Allow yourself very slowly now to resurface, but take a further moment just in appreciation of your body and your breath, the whole of your body, and the way that your breath animates your body. And then when you are ready to move on an exhalation and roll over onto one side. Pause to give yourself a hug there if you like. And then come up to sit all together. Take a moment and bring your hands up and place them center chest in prayer pose. I always think of this movement as being a gathering of my energy after my practice and a way to express gratitude for the practice that we've done, and not the least that we've done it together, shared practice. And finally, it's a sign of respect that we give to ourselves, importantly to ourselves, and send out to each other. So sending out goodwill to everyone here and everyone generally. Namaste.